talking about web apps. What I mean by web apps are basically not really websites or that angle. Talking about applications that were traditionally on a desktop or you expected them to be desktop or something. Moving them to a online space. Even CRM and stuff has traditionally been on the desktop. The Sugar CRM and a whole bunch of people are moving this kind of stuff online. If you look there online, there is the software like Software and stuff, which is ERP software that is still an application. So, to actually move that online, you need to give people a certain kind of experience and certain kind of usability, so I'm talking about that. I guess, I know most of you are pretty well versed with this stuff, so I'm not going to bother you. You guys know how the web used to be, not very great. Then, people ended up with Web 1.0, and that's where most people still are. What I mean by that is, I know these just, work numbers, but what I mean is a lot of people still use PHP framework, and the frameworks actually bind you into their way of things and expect you to do certain ways, and you can't really be flexible. The minimal use of JavaScript. Most people end up using JavaScript for some basic thing, maybe some nice cool effect or something, but not really to improve the experience, not to help you. Well, there's the Web 2.0. A lot of these are buzzwords, but they also mean a lot. We actually use most of this stuff. Ajax, everyone knows what that is. That is, the dynamic asynchronous calls and everything. So Comet is another cool backend framework. What Comet basically is, it's like a pops-up mechanism, if anyone is familiar with XMPP. So it's a pops-up mechanism where you actually subscribe to a channel using HTTP, and then they'll just send you back messages whenever anyone else puts them in there. You can write a web-based chat client using Comet. So there are already Comet servers. If anyone's a Java programmer, there's Jetty. It's an engine which actually supports Comet in a big way. So there's Flex and Flash, which is again open source, and a lot of people use it. And I put that up there because that actually has backends for Comet and Ajax. So then JavaScript UI frameworks. This is what we use a lot. We actually use JavaScript to create our user interfaces, and obviously HTML is used, but most of the HTML is actually rendered by the JavaScript. It's a pretty cool thing. JSON RPC. JSON itself is a serializing technology to serialize data structures to help you move data structures between PHP or any language for that matter and the web. You can have like a associative array, and you can have that associative array just show up in JavaScript just like an associative array. You don't have to do some crazy post pushing or parse comma delimited text that's sent by the server or something there. JSON RPC is again using the same technology for remote procedure calls. You want to be sure on that. So for remote, so you can actually execute a call. You can say get name in JavaScript, and that will cause this event to go back and get back an array from PHP of all the names of the students in this place or whatever. So that's actually pretty nice because it extends your programming from JavaScript to PHP without really having to worry about the backend and stuff like that. So PHP is middleware. That's again something that's basically PHP not really being used to serve the site or to render things, actually as a backend to serve the data structure. So, okay. So I'll quickly go through this online creation of the desktop application. So what I mean by that is dynamic content. Basically, the desktop application needs to be recreated online. So a bunch of things that you have to keep in mind. Content is dynamic. Could be a URP app or some kind of streaming app where a lot of data is changing on the screen. So you might want to use appropriate technology for that. So the look and feel. So you need to look like a desktop app, feel like something you've traditionally been used to. So that needs to be kept in mind. Responsive interface. Obviously, you don't want to click there and wait for the whole page to reload and refresh and all that. It's just bad. Data-driven use of data. Okay, well, a lot of these things have backend databases and all kinds of data structures. So those need to be actually pushed up into the browser. And most of them are structured data. It could be an object which has 2-3 arrays. You could have a couple of associative arrays. Could be just another object in it, or maybe an array of objects. So the whole structure can be pushed up to JavaScript. That's nothing like it from PHP. So you can just send to it just like the way you were in. You don't really have to do any text parsing or anything. JSON takes care of that for you. Again, like I said, JSON does it, and JSON is really small and tight. good time. Sorry, I'm just rushing through a lot of this. I'm going really fast because I have a limited amount of time and a lot here. So,
no worries, Vikram, just take it easy.
Okay. Well, it's usually a lot. So, PHP as middleware. Okay, well, here I've again talked about PHP. When I say PHP as middleware, what do I mean? I mean, traditionally, most of you guys are accustomed to PHP data being posted to a PHP script, and then the PHP script sending back some HTML and some stuff. Even if you use a framework that PHP allows a lot of PHP, there are some frameworks in PHP that are trying to replicate Ruby on Rails and all that. So even if you use that, it's kind of traditionally that. But here, PHP is not really sending any HTML, not really sending any JavaScript, any of that stuff. It's just sending you data structure, serialized data structure. So it's like engine that you just ask for things, say, you know what, give me the names of the people in class. So you don't get this huge web page with the names on it, but you get this data structure right up. So that's kind of how we're going about developing our thing. Then there's, again, how we call those methods, how do we ask, PHP give me this data structure. What we do is we basically use either JSON or C, or we have our own custom post mechanism that kind of sends a certain, serializes the request and sends it down to. Then there is, again, this is talking about JSON serializing it. So this is actually an example of JSON. That's how it looks. That basically says that this is an associative array or an object, either way you want to put it. There's a variable named result, and that this is an array. The first element in the array is the word hello, second element is world. Or for example, you have something like story. So you can actually, we send JSON data structures of that type back to JavaScript to signal errors or to deliver the result of whatever we ask for. So if we send a message saying, you know what, calculate pi to the 100th value and give that to me. PHP will do that and send back a result of that type. Or say PHP decides, you know what, I can't really calculate this to the 100th value, it's too complex. So just send me back an error saying, you know what, sorry, find someone else. And pass function arguments instead of posts. Well, most people are familiar with posts. Somehow, I guess we had some prejudice against it. It was just irritating to have to hit set and check if the variable has been set, and so you could always use it. There's nothing against it, but we actually made our own serializing way that we can just call functions directly from PHP. You don't really have to post data. I'll come to that again.